There's plenty of sad, pathetic losers on the internet, but above them all stands one YouTuber named Onision. I have more respect for adults that film themselves shitting in diapers than I do for Onision. For those of you fortunate enough to have never heard of this guy, and I imagine that's most of you watching because almost no one remembers this guy, he's a fucking fossil on the internet that's only remembered as the butt of every fucking joke online now. But he used to be a pretty big YouTuber, a really shitty one. He had 3 shitty channels, one where he talked about shit horribly with these pseudo-intellectual hot takes, one where he made the worst skits ever created on the internet, and then one where he made the worst skits ever created and also talked about shit poorly. He's fallen into obscurity these days because over the course of his career he fell into many controversies such as reports of being abusive in his relationships, manipulation. He also used to have this series where teenage girls would send pictures of their body to him so he could rate them on it. It's all weird, fucked up shit. And for the last 2 or 3 years, all 3 of his channels combined for like 100,000 views a month, so he was pretty much dead on the internet. But this week, he came up with a new strategy for gaining attention, which was posting weird, cringy 50 Shades of Grey fanfic shit on his Twitter, saying things like, I can't wait for you to fuck me, I want to wake up in the morning with your pussy around my asshole, things like that. And it was too hard for people to not make fun of him, because this man's just a human punching bag. Calling this guy a human is giving him a very generous title, because he's not. This dude's like a fucking pinworm. He just lives in your asshole and makes you itch, and to scratch that itch you have to make fun of him. He's pathetic. Imagine your life revolving around having to get made fun of just so you can make a paycheck. I really don't know how this cockroach can be happy with his legacy. His whole existence revolves around going online and making people hate him and laugh at him. Hemorrhoids have more support than Onision. Urinary tract infections have more fans than Onision. People like broken bones more than they like Onision. His real name is Greg. Greg, how can you be happy with this? If you ever have a child, don't you think that child's gonna be so fucking, just embarrassed of you? Oh yeah, what's your dad do for a living? Oh, he goes online just to get fucking laughed at. Oh great, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Bring him in for show and tell so we can laugh at him. It's fucking pathetic, and I didn't want to talk about this guy because he thrives off this kind of attention. Whenever someone mentions him, no matter how negative, it's always the only thing that even boosts his dead channels by even a slightest amount. But I figured since he's all over the internet right now, it was worth talking about because he actually is getting investigated for child grooming, which sounds about right given Onision's past and all of the alleged things against him. And also just taking one look at his content, it looks like the kind of shit someone that grooms children would make. But anyway, let me just show you a clip from some of his content so you get an idea for the kind of person he is and the kind of shit that he thinks is entertaining, even though it's some of the worst jokes of all time. Keep in mind, this came out this year, March 11th of 2019.
Donegan, and tonight's top story. A special ed school got shot up by a former U.S. Marine? Yes, according to our reports, 100% of the special ed students went ahead and died because instead of running away from the muzzle flash, they ran towards it. Apparently, for some reason, they mixed up the gunshot sounds with a popular rap song, and a lot of them kept screaming, "That's my bop!" One of the former U.S. Marine that shot up the school, coincidentally, was also the surviving teacher, who got a high five for making the world a better place.
Some real side-splitting comedy, Onision, real gut-busting stuff. Sticking your fucking head in between 2 dump trucks colliding would be less painful than sitting through an Onision video. This guy has absolutely no talent whatsoever. Now, I did promise I'd never make a video on Onision because for the last 3 years his entire channel and online presence across all 3 of his channels has been so incredibly dead that even mentioning it in like a fucking passing fart would be enough to kind of help it. So I didn't want to even take the chance because this is the only thing he does. He thrives off the attention, even if it's the worst negative shit in the world. It's the only thing that matters to him, and it does work because his channels have gone from 100,000 views a month across all 3 to now up to 3 million views a month on just a single one. All because of his Twitter antics and being investigated for child grooming. It's all he cares about. This is the kind of person he is. I mean, just take a look at this channel. Look at those views compared to the one he just posted today on his Twitter, which is about all of the drama and shit. It's the same for all of them. His channels have had a huge boost in views, which is extremely sad, and people are talking about his meltdown video, which is obviously just him thinking he's untouchable and trying to capitalize off the drama. But he did actually lose his Patreon, which is great news, so that means he's now lost $10 a month that he was making over there. But yeah, anyway, just want to make this quick video talking about this fucking loser. Hopefully all this attention doesn't revitalize his online career. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, not too long ago I made a video on everyone's least favorite internet creator, Onision, talking about the fucked up shit he does and what makes him just so pitiful. Not that that's brave or anything, because that's his entire pathetic existence now. He just exists to be made fun of, just an internet punching bag. He's like a fucking blobfish, just cursed to be a loser and be pointed and laughed at. And he constantly just fuels that fire so that way people will make fun of him, so that way he gets views on his videos. So he posts those goofy freak out videos where he's like waving his arms in the air, shit like that, so that way people make fun of him for a dumb freak out. He goes on Twitter and says, "I'm gonna use all 3 inches of my penis in your tight ass," or some garbage. He's like a Mr. Meeseeks of YouTube. He's only here to get made fun of, and when people finally get tired of making fun of him, he just fucking disappears. That's all he has. It's such a worthless fucking existence online. But anyway, I swore with my cock on a stack of Bibles I wouldn't make another video about Onision. I wouldn't even mention his name. It'd be like Voldemort to me. But now I can't help myself. I have to talk about it because a champion has been summoned. Chris fucking Hansen has entered the Smash Bros. Arena and is now hunting Onision. There's no name more feared by predators than Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen is to predators what the Antichrist is to everyone else. He signals the end. Fear, terror, confusion, and a lot of times jail time. Chris Hansen is no lightweight, and now Onision's in his crosshairs.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online, and they just showed up to my house.
Okay, and they're outside now?
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers. I didn't see any weapons. I just saw like 6 guys in my driveway, and one of them is knocking on my door.
Okay, and do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
Greg is about as brave in person as you'd expect. The thing about dealing with a predator is you know exactly what a predator is going to do.
I love that little line right there, that little humdinger from Chris Hansen. Greg is about as brave in person as you'd expect. I mean, I don't think there's anyone in the world that thought for even a moment Greg was anything more than a gaping, seeping, oozing pussy. But I like that Chris Hansen just buckles down and says what we're all thinking. He's a fucking pussy, without saying those words, but it's what he's implying, obviously, and he's absolutely right. Greg didn't even have the balls to just talk to Chris Hansen at his door. I'm actually surprised the 911 operator didn't hang up the second he said it's Chris Hansen, or send the squad cars out there to help Chris Hansen. So, in a nutshell, Chris Hansen has been digging through all of Onision's past, all of everything that's been presented for all the evidence, and then he wanted to go get Greg's side of it, so he went to Greg's house, and Greg immediately called the police. The police were making fun of Onision in his own fucking driveway, and some of the officers were fans of Chris, which is just icing on the little shit cake that Greg created. It's just a beautiful little disaster, a nice little development in the Onision manga arc anime Fall from Grace. It's incredible. I can't wait to see where it develops next. Chris Hansen has positioned himself as the hero of this anime, Greg the antagonist, the big bad evil villain, and I can't wait to see Chris's next move in this series here. I don't want to talk about Onision, but this shit right here had me smiling from ear to ear, just to watch Greg not even pretend to be a tough guy, immediately call the police, only to have the police show up and start making fun of him on his own property. Like, it's beautiful. That's fucking beautiful. He's as big a loser in real life as he is on the internet. That's incredible. That's crazy, and exactly what that kind of guy deserves. So yeah, just wanted to talk about this briefly. That's about it. Wishing you the best of luck here, Chris Hansen. Godspeed. See ya. Throughout the history of YouTube, there's of course been no shortage of creeps on the platform. However, there's always existed one champion atop this mountain of weirdos, one alpha goober, who is more laughably pathetic and cringe, and more dangerously unhinged than all of the rest. His name used to send shivers down the spines of all parents who had teenage girls in their household. His name has long since been forgotten, like an ancient threat. He's like the Sauron of YouTube, the Thanos of online accused predators. His name is Onision. This is someone I've covered quite a few times on the channel over the years, and we're going to be talking about him again because he is now facing his biggest lawsuit yet for his alleged grooming and solicitation of pictures of underage girls, as well as a lot of other really awful things that he has been accused of over the years. Talking about Onision in 2023 is like talking about a 1970s obscure action movie villain that no one remembers. It's just been so long since anyone's actually talked about him outside of just mentioning all of his absolute degeneracy or laughing at him for when he embarrasses himself. Even though he's not active on YouTube, he is still active on Twitter and posts just unbearable, unreadable garbage. Things like, "What if I hugged you and then buried my tongue deep inside your asshole and then I fished around in there for dingleberries? Would you like that? Would you like that, my naughty princess? Would you get squirty for me?" Like, absolutely awful vomit-inducing shit. So he'd get dunked on Twitter still as just a little punching bag, but he wasn't really a YouTuber anymore for the last, like, 4 or 5 years. I'll go ahead and give you, like, a brief history of him, since I'm sure most of you don't even remember the shit stain that he left on the internet. I'll give you a little lore recap. He started making shit all the way back in 2007, but really what blew up his channel was this video, the banana song, "I'm a Banana." It was a viral video that really popped off, and it's during that era of YouTube where everything was just like XD random and making silly songs like "Spoon, Spork, I got a spoon, a spork, sporky spoon," like that kind of awful shit. He capitalized on that genre, and from there grew 3 channels with over 1 million subs each, one of them over 2 million, which for its time was unheard of. He was one of the biggest channels YouTube had for years. He was absolutely massive. And then he started letting that power get to his head. He started falling into a lot of controversies, but by far the biggest one was he had a website where his audience of mostly young teenage girls would send pictures of themselves that he would grade. He'd grade them on their attractiveness, on their bodies and shit like that, and he would critique them and talk about these pictures that little girls were sending to him. How the authorities didn't kick down his door and rip him out of his banana costume for all this shit, I will never fully understand, because there's a lot of substantiated evidence about all of this. So you can immediately see that this is a fucking awful person. This is a bad guy, and the controversies only continued to grow over the years. It got to a point where Chris Hansen investigated him. I think there's even a documentary about Onision and all the awful shit he's done. And he never really faced repercussions for these actions. He even still tried to, like, capitalize off some of the shit. He started an OnlyFans page which focused on cuck porn of him. It's not even really worth going down that road, but yeah, he started an OnlyFans for even more weird shit that he was into and trying to sell. He had an appearance in court a couple years ago where everyone was laughing at him because he showed up in a bulletproof vest. He was actually suing Chris Hansen, but ended up suing the wrong Chris Hansen. And Onision is so unbelievably fucking stupid. He's an absolute bumbling idiot that he decided to represent himself in court. As you can imagine, this was a complete mockery of the legal system, and everyone was laughing at him because he went there in a fucking bulletproof vest, represented himself, and he looked like an extra out of a John Wick film. And now, fast forward to 2023, and he is facing by far his biggest lawsuit yet. They put out a statement a few days ago breaking down everything. The entire 48-page lawsuit is available to read and download if anyone really wants to see all of the details. Here are 5 counts alleged in the filing. This is just an article breaking down the situation, but this is all from the actual complaint. As you can see, it's very serious shit here. They're pulling no punches. This is the full knuckle sandwich they're coming after Onision with. And rightfully so. All of these allegations are disgusting, and he absolutely does need to be held accountable for years upon years of this kind of behavior. So I'm very curious to see how all of this plays out. This is a big deal for sure, and one that undoubtedly will be very interesting to see unfold. I am, however, excited to see Onision's newest breakdown video that he'll likely make for this. He's notorious for filming himself, having a meltdown, and leaning into the controversy where he tries to make like a mockery of it. So he like just has these over-the-top breakdowns, spitting and screaming and shitting and pissing, all about people, you know, being mean to him. But those are usually just trying to farm off of the drama, so he tries to like clout goblin his way into a couple extra views for some ad revenue. This one I think is far more serious for him, since this carries huge sentencing should he be found guilty on all of these things. Like, this is not a light lawsuit, at least Not from what I've read here. This seems like this could be an absolute big one. So I don't know if he's going to be his usual deplorable attention farming self off this case here, but I guess we'll just have to see. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit, and that's about it. See ya.